Welcome to Study with a Tutor. My name's Lori. Study with a Tutor is a chemistry tutoring company that gives you insight into your points of confusion. We offer tips and one-on-one tutoring. Make sure you have a calculator, a pencil, and a sheet of paper for this session. I'd like to share with you a problem that I faced as I was solving problems when someone gave me grams and required me to answer in terms of grams as well. Pause the video to answer this problem. If you answered 2.2 grams of nitrogen, then you need to continue with the video to understand your point of confusion. If you answered 28.2 grams of nitrogen, then congratulations, you are correct. First of all, I want to say, don't be discouraged. Your point of confusion can lead you to a place of mastery as long as you're seeking to understand what took place. So the very first step that I'd like you to consider is what I call a secret, my best practice secret. It's label all elements and compounds and label all the units. This sets you up for what we call dimensional analysis. In dimensional analysis, it's essentially a checks and balances way of making sure that you've set up your problem correctly. The other point of confusion that sort of comes into play is the understanding of the definition of the mole. It's essentially a number with a fancy name. And that number is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Many times people get confused because they think of that number in terms of mass, because mass is also a number. But 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd is the number of pieces, if you will, within each, if it was an element, or the number of pieces that was, say, a compound. Like in this case, this is sugar. Okay, I have 200 pieces counted out. Let's pretend that it was 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Or popcorn. I have 200 counted out. Let's pretend that it was 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. We would have 1 mole of popcorn to 1 mole of sugar. All right, we can see that there's a vast difference in that mass. And that's why we have the periodic table. So again, many times people think that that moles are directly related to mass, but they're never, ever, ever directly related to mass. Instead, there's a roundabout way, and that roundabout way of getting from a mole to grams is through the periodic table, or getting from the grams to the mole. Same thing. Let me take a look, let me show you and put into practice some of these things that we just talked about. So we start out with 6.06 grams of hydrogen gas, H2. It's a diatomic atom. And let's keep in mind that this whole chemistry equation can only be, we can only look at each relationship between of the compounds or the elements in terms of moles. That is a rule, okay? Only moles. They cannot be directly related to grams. Remember, our roundabout way is through the periodic table. So 6.06 grams of hydrogen gas, I'm going ahead and convert it into moles because that's the only relationship that we can have. So through the periodic table, I know that hydrogen gas, or hydrogen, is actually equal to 1.01 grams of 1 mole of hydrogen. And we have H2, it's not just H. So H2 needs to be multiplied by 2 because it's a compound. So that's 2.02 grams of H2 is equal to 1 mole. And I want to make sure that I put my grams on the bottom because we're talking about dimensional analysis and we want to be able to cancel those things out. So 2.02 grams of hydrogen gas is equal to 1 mole of hydrogen. As you can see, I'm putting into practice labeling my units and labeling my compound, whether it is a compound or an element. My unit here is moles, my unit here is grams. Now I'm going to move to canceling out my mole of hydrogen gas by relating these two, okay? I have a mole, 3 moles of hydrogen gas in this problem is related to 1 mole of nitrogen gas. Now I put a 1 in front of this N2 because it didn't have a number. So as a reminder, I'm just telling you that if you don't see any number, it's assumed that it's 1. And 1 is reflective, 1 times anything is itself. So we have 1 mole of nitrogen gas. Let me go ahead and do my dimensional analysis and cancel out my units and compounds as long as they're like. Grams of hydrogen gas, mole of hydrogen gas, mole of hydrogen gas. My unit is a mole of nitrogen gas. Okay, so let me carry out my calculation. In my numerators, it's 6.06 times 1 times 1. That's still 6.06. In my denominator, it is 1 times 2, which is 2.02. 2.02 times 3 is still 6.06. And I don't have any units on the bottom, but 6.06 divided by itself is 1. So we have 1 mole of nitrogen gas. Is our answer in the correct unit? The answer to that question is no. So I need to convert. If I'm taking a mole and I'm converting it into grams and moles, the only roundabout way is through the periodic table. So I look on my periodic table and I find that nitrogen is 14.01. Now we have a diatomic atom and nitrogen is actually N2. So 14.01 times 2 in this case is, so N2 is 14.01 times 2, which would give us 28.02 grams per 1 mole of N2 gas. So I know that my mole must go on the bottom. 1 mole of N2 gas is equal to 28.02 grams of N2 gas. My moles cancel, and I am left with 28.02 grams of N2 gas. All right. Well, if you found this video to be helpful, then like us, share it on Facebook, let us know what you think. If you have any questions and you have some points of confusion and you'd like a little clarity, feel free to jump on our website at studywiththetutor.wordpress.com and ask your question. We'd be more than happy to help you. So until next time, remember that your point of confusion can lead to mastery.